Hi, in this video we're going to take a look at some examples and we're going to practice punctuating both simple and compound sentences. So we're going to start by identifying all the prepositional phrases because we know that no subject or verb of a sentence will be found in a prepositional phrase. We're going to identify the verbs, underline them twice, and then identify the subjects. Next, we're going to decide if the sentence is a simple sentence or if it's a compound sentence. And we have to remember that if it's a compound sentence, the subjects and verbs alternate. So we would have two independent clauses and we would follow the pattern subject, verb, subject, verb. And last, we're going to add the correct punctuation. So let's look at this first example. Sometimes I like country western music, sometimes I hate it. So in this particular sentence, we don't have any parentheses, but we do, of course, have verbs. So we're going to identify the verbs. Like is our first verb. So I'm going to highlight it. Hate is also a verb, which I will highlight. Then we want to identify the subjects that go with the verbs. So who likes? I do. So I is the subject. And in the second part, do we have a subject? Who hates? I do. So I is the subject there. So as we can see, we do have this pattern, subject, verb, subject, verb. So we know that this is a compound sentence. So our last step then is to add the correct punctuation. And in this case, we don't have any coordinate conjunctions or any conjunctive adverbs. We don't have any words that are joining the two clauses together. So I'm going to use a simple semicolon all by itself to punctuate the sentence. Let's look at our next example. The cake is delicious. Still, I couldn't eat another bite. So we'll start by identifying any prepositional phrases. And in this case, we don't have any prepositional phrases. So next, we're going to look for verbs. Here we have is. I'm going to highlight that. That's a verb. And could eat is also a verb. The helping verb could and the main verb eat. So we need to identify the subjects that go with each of those. So what is? Well, the cake is. So cake is the subject there. And who couldn't eat? I couldn't eat. So I is the subject of the verb couldn't eat. So we do again have this pattern, subject, verb, subject, verb. So this is another example of a compound sentence. So our last step is to add punctuation, and we're going to take a look and see if we have any connecting words that are joining the two clauses. Our first clause, the cake is delicious. Our second clause, I couldn't eat another bite. We have this word still, which is a conjunctive adverb. So we use a semicolon before a conjunctive adverb and a comma after the conjunctive adverb. Let's look at the next example. Joanne lost 14 pounds on her diet. I only lost 6. So first step, we want to identify any prepositional phrases. On her diet. If we ask on what? On her diet. That helps us identify the prepositional phrase. And that's the only prepositional phrase that we have. And then we're going to look for verbs. Lost is a verb, so I'll highlight it. And we also have another lost, which also is a verb. So if we ask who lost, well, Joanne. She's the one who lost 14 pounds, so Joanne is the subject that comes with the first lost. And who lost in this part of the sentence? I did. I lost 6. So I is the subject there. So again, we do have alternating subjects and verbs, subject, verb, and we have two clauses that form a compound sentence. So it's a compound sentence, and then we need to figure out how are we going to punctuate this sentence. Joanne lost 14 pounds on her diet. I only lost 6. Well, in this case, the first clause ends after diet. Joanne lost 14 pounds on her diet. I only lost 6. I only lost 6 is our second clause. And we don't have any connecting words, so we're going to use a semicolon as our punctuation. Let's look now at example 4. My uncle suddenly jumped in his car and left in a hurry. Again, we're going to start by identifying prepositional phrases. We have in his car. In what? In his car. That's a prepositional phrase. And we have another prepositional phrase here, in a hurry. In what? In a hurry. Next step is to identify any verbs. So jumped is a verb. I'm going to highlight it. And left is also a verb. So I'll highlight it as well. And then we have to determine what subject goes with those verbs. So who jumped and who left? Well, uncle is the person who did that action. So uncle is the subject. And uncle did both of those actions. He jumped and he left. So in this case, we don't have subject, verb, subject, verb. All we have is a single clause. So this is a simple sentence. We'll look at one last example. The people down the street on the 3rd floor of the red brick building quarreled loudly until 4 in the morning about their money problems. Very long sentence. However, it's full of prepositional phrases. Down the street is a prepositional phrase. On the 3rd floor is a prepositional phrase. Of the red brick building, running out of space here, is a prepositional phrase. Until 4 is a prepositional phrase. In the morning, and about their money problems. So once we have identified all of those prepositional phrases, we've eliminated most of the words in the sentence, in fact. So next we look for any verbs, any action happening here. Quarreled is our verb, so I'm going to highlight it. And who quarreled? The people quarreled. So people is our subject in this sentence. So even though the sentence is rather lengthy, we only have one subject and one verb. So it must be a simple sentence. So these are the steps that we're going to follow when we try to determine what is the correct punctuation for a sentence.